Hello and welcome to ABP Live. I have with me today Ambassador Sharat Sabharwal. He was India's ambassador twice in a way to Pakistan, first as a Deputy High Commissioner in 1995 and then as the High Commissioner in 2009. Welcome to ABP Live, sir, and thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Sir, to begin with, there's so much that we are hearing about Pakistan right now. There's been complete political turmoil, a sort of a meltdown, and now there are questions arising. What is the future of the civil-military relationship? We'll come to that. I'm sure you will have a lot to speak on that because of your experience. But how do you analyze the present situation, sir?
Well, at the moment, Nayanima, Pakistan faces multiple crises. Multiple crises which correspond to its major fault lines. There are a number of fault lines in Pakistan. It's a dysfunctional state. The first fault line, the Pakistani state has always spent far beyond its means. Now, that has brought it to a situation where the treasury is hollowed out every now and then, hollowed out by the army and the Pakistani elites. Now they are facing an extremely precarious economic situation, extreme hardship to the people, growth down to 0.3%, inflation rate close to 40%, made worse by the floods, unfortunate floods of last year. Pakistan has been staring at a default. It has avoided it by the skin of its teeth because China, Saudi Arabia and UAE rolled over their deposits and loans. Then there is another fault line. Pakistan has encouraged religious extremism inter alia to perpetrate terror against India and to have strategic depth in Afghanistan. That has led to forces like TTP. So there is a steady wave of terror at the moment. Another fault line is serious ethnic fault lines. That has created a situation, especially in the tribal areas and Balochistan, which is ripe for violence and terror, which is fertile for violence and terror. But the mother of all fault lines in Pakistan is the civil-military imbalance and army stranglehold over the Pakistani polity and their continuous interference in politics. Now, that has meant that genuine democracy has never taken roots in Pakistan. So what is happening politically today, the political logjam, is the result of this fault line.
Right.
More specifically, it is the result of political engineering by Bajwa, former Army Chief Bajwa, right through the 6 years of his tenure. As you know, he first ousted Nawaz Sharif through a dubious accountability process in 2017. Then he brought in Imran Khan. He was the favorite of the army at that time through a rigged election in 2018 as Prime Minister.
Correct.
Fell out with him, engineered his ouster defeat in a vote of confidence by manipulating the smaller parties, which are beholden to the army, to abandon him and to support the Shahbaz Sharif coalition, which of course is ruling now. But that has, of course, meant constant political turmoil. When you don't allow normal processes to move forward, somewhere that steam has to come out, somewhere that instability has to come out. That is what is happening today. So just before Bajwa was leaving, laying down his office in November of last year, he said, look, we have thought a great deal. We know army has meddled in political affairs for all 70 years of our history, over 70 years. And now we wish to put an end to it. He says that, and within 6 months, his successor, Asim Munir, is back to political engineering again.
Correct.
Because he has a grudge against Imran Khan, who as Prime Minister had moved him out of the position of DG ISI within months, within 5-6 months, So the last thing he would like to see is to have Imran Khan come back to power. And that is the turmoil, political turmoil we are seeing, which has caused a total political logjam, which therefore takes away the capability of the Pakistani state to deal with those other problems I referred to, economy and terrorism and so on and so forth.
So one thing that comes to everyone's mind, especially if you see it from India's lens, why is it and how is it that Imran Khan has suddenly become so popular and so, such a kind of a hero has been made out of him? They say that he has more grassroots pull. The poor people there demand him, and if there is an election tomorrow in Pakistan, he might come back to power. How far is that true? And do you really think the kind of steps that the army is taking against Imran Khan will that backfire?
Just a little background, very briefly the
Sure.
background. He founded this party PTI in 1996. I was Deputy High Commissioner then in Pakistan. His political career went nowhere until 2011 when the army picked him up. Essentially to make sure that Nawaz Sharif didn't win power in Punjab. He has been dominant in Punjab. They started promoting, large number of people started coming to his rallies, people gravitated to his party. Now they are leaving. The process is in reverse now. So the army built him up. He was someone who had charisma. He was a cricketer, very popular cricketer, very popular, especially with the middle classes, flamboyant character also, and with the youth, and so on. Now, once the army started giving him a boost, and there were of course problems with the Nawaz Sharif government, because things were difficult even then. Economy now it's a very precarious situation, but even then it was no better. Given the conditions in Pakistan, no prime minister, as I always say, can succeed if they can continue with their current policies and orientation. So he came to power, became prime minister. He was quite unpopular. His popularity had gone down a great deal when he was ousted from power. If they had allowed him to continue for another year till elections in October this year, he would have probably been out, most likely been out in those elections. Once you oust a person, and he has a certain charisma, he then appeals to the middle classes, he appeals to the professional classes. The Pakistani polity has so far been dominated by large business and landlords, etc., etc. Here is someone who is also appealing to the middle class, who is appealing to the professionals. So, that in itself brings him more popularity. And then he started with a narrative which was anti-American, which he has pulled back, of course. But at the same time, he also blamed the army, and he said, they keep on meddling in politics, etc., etc. A nationalist, populist kind of narrative he coined. And people saw him as a victim. And he has gained in popularity significantly since then. And now, if elections are to be held today, he will most likely win. If you ask me, he will certainly win that election, And that has been the problem of the army and his opponents.
So then, interestingly, since you were there, as you said, when the PTI got created, but where do you think the breakage sort of started between him and the military, especially with former Army Chief Bajwa? And why do you think, that has really gone on and he played on to it?
Look, this has been the normal story in Pakistan. The army picks up a civilian leader, thinks he is pliable, builds him up. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, he rose under a military regime, Ayub Khan. Nawaz Sharif was the creation of Zia's regime. And Imran Khan, as I said, was chosen by Kiani in those days, the Chief of Army Staff, 2011. Then the army co-opted him. What happens is, once a person becomes prime minister, after some time he feels suffocated because he has to constantly keep on looking over his shoulder to see what the army is thinking. So that is what started happening to Imran Khan, and he's a very headstrong person. As cricket captain also, his reputation, he was dictatorial and, he a strong-willed person. So I think that would have, caused some frictions. But then, differences developed, for example, over policy towards the United States, etc., etc. Bajwa wanted to be more accommodating, even towards India. And Imran Khan said that this was politically not possible. But the real falling out came on the question of DGISI. A man called Faiz Hamid, who was DGISI, this is in 2021, towards the end of 2021. He was due for a change. And he was to go to a corps, to lead it as a corps commander. He had been instrumental earlier. He was at a lower position in the ISI and had been instrumental in promoting Imran Khan. So Imran Khan had developed some trust in him. And he was insisting, he was telling Bajwa, you leave him here in DGISI, as DGISI. And Bajwa, I think, started suspecting that, they were becoming too close to each other.
Correct.
And Faiz Hamid probably was, currying favor with the Prime Minister, telling him that I'll keep you in this position. But when time comes, after Bajwa, you make me the Chief of Army Staff.
And that's also
So,
during the Afghanistan fall.
yeah, this was soon after that. Soon
Right.
after that, in August 2021,
Right.
the Kabul fell,
Hmm.
and this was 3-4 months after that. That was the real falling out, and then the trust was gone, and Bajwa was looking for an opportunity to push Imran Khan out of power. Then he did a deal with PMLN, PPP, etc., with Shahbaz Sharif, Zardari, and so on. Then this coalition came about. PDM had been in existence earlier. This coalition came about, and then he engineered defection of those smaller parties from Imran Khan's side to them, and that led to his downfall.
So then also, I mean, first for the benefit of our viewers, let me tell them that, Ambassador Sabharwal has also a book called the India's Pakistan Conundrum, Managing a Complex Relationship. This also talks about, sir, why am I coming to the book, how you sort of dealt with the complex civil-military relationship, and how, as you said, right now also it has become an issue for all the prime ministers. But going forward and whatever is happening in Pakistan right now, do you see somewhere that scenario is changing, although that will take a long time? But is this the beginning of the end?
Well, let me give a more nuanced answer. If you want a simple answer, I would say civil-military imbalance is not going to get corrected anytime soon.
Okay.
This will be, as I often say, a process, not an event. This will be a gradual process. If it happens, whenever it happens, it will come about over a period of time as a result of internal push. But to give you a more nuanced answer, look, army has been all powerful in Pakistan most of the time. But they have had their moments when they were down and out. 71 war, after 71 war, they were totally discredited.
Correct.
They recovered from there. So there has been public anger against them from time to time. But when I was Deputy High Commissioner, there was widespread fear of the army. I can tell you, when I met politicians, even in closed-door meetings, they were hesitant to talk of the army or talk against the army, lest someone be recording that conversation and give it to the intelligence agencies. When they had to say about the army Fauj, they would say wo log, epaulets of the army officers. That
Correct.
kind of fear. That started changing at the turn of the century for two reasons. One, failure of the policies fostered by the Pakistan army on the Pakistani polity. That failure was increasingly evident after 9/11 and after at the turn of the century, when Musharraf had to make a U-turn on terrorism, half-hearted U-turn, although. That was one. The second is information revolution.
Okay.
When I was Deputy High Commissioner, it was only PTV, Pakistan Radio. So all information came from the state. Now it's multiple private TV channels, there is internet, there is social media, and all that has made information flow much freer. So people have been talking much more openly against the army. You saw Nawaz Sharif talked against them sitting in London, but
Right.
Imran Khan did it while sitting within Pakistan. So that's one side of it. But the other side of it is that the army keeps on sort of reinventing the ways of, perpetuating its stranglehold on the Pakistani polity. If you take the current situation, it is no democratic revolution. Imran Khan was pursuing, it is pursuit of power for him. It has been. So when he was saying for free and fair elections, yes, free and fair elections is the right solution to Pakistan's problems. But he is saying it for the wrong reason, because he knows I am popular today, I can win it. Tomorrow, if he is not popular, he will not ask for a free and fair election. Then he made a deal with the army in 2018 to win that election. So it's no democratic revolution. What is going on now, after probably you will have some questions on that also, the violence, etc., which took place. And I'll then explain to you what the army is doing. So the army has again taken control. of things, and they are sort of running the things behind a civilian facade. So this, as I said, is not going to go away anytime soon. But we must take note of the fact that the army's position is not the same as it used to be earlier. That widespread fear is not there. People have been talking against it. And that is a small trend which we must take note of, because it is part of that process that I talked of. If it happens, it will be a process. And this is kind of a small step in that process.
So my next question, as you said, it will be also on the fact that the amount of violence we noticed on TV. I don't know how much of that was reality, but then to see people going into, the army quarters, the premises, which are very strictly sensitive, and those zones, is it really unprecedented? Has it really never happened in the history of Pakistan? What some, reports were saying.
Yeah, I think the sweep and ferocity of violence this time was unprecedented. As I told you, army has been down and out earlier also. It's been attacked by terrorists, by TTP, etc. When I was High Commissioner, there were a number of attacks, terror attacks on army installations and army establishments, very serious attacks, including the GHQ. But those were by terrorists. This violence was by civilian demonstrators, supporters of PTI. So the sweep and ferocity of this violence was unprecedented. Yes. It's not only, we have heard only of Lahore Corps Commander's house, but, GHQ's outer perimeter was breached. Then they took over some other installations. They damaged some other installations. One or two ISI offices, I believe, were also attacked. So it was widespread. And yes, it was unprecedented.
So this time, as you said, that this is unprecedented, but then does this also show that the Pakistani population is now ready and willing to face the military, and maybe they are saying through these kind of acts that, this far and no further?
Well, as I said, the violence was, the extent and ferocity of violence was unprecedented, but it would be premature to draw that conclusion. As I said, maybe it's just part of that trend, where the army's position is slowly being chipped away. Why do I say that? Let me explain. That violence has been followed by a very strong backlash. And that backlash reminds you of what the army has been doing all along. It's using the old instruments of coercion and intimidation and so on. So what did they do? They picked up a large number of leaders of PTI. And some of them, when released by the courts, they were picked up again on a different charge. Then released again. Some were arrested 3 or 4 times. Eventually, you tire out the man, and you have seen that many of them have left the party. They have deserted the party. They picked up even journalists and social media activists who were pro PTI. So what they are trying to do is destroy Imran Khan, decimate his party. They of course would like him to be disqualified from holding public office. Things are also moving on that line. The judiciary is a bit of a problem. But the other attempt is to take away his base. So, he keeps on sitting on the top, but he doesn't have a base. Most of the leaders leave. And that, as I said, is a process in reverse. The party was built by the army, and now the army is sort of fragmenting it. It's a process in reverse. It's back to the old days. And you don't see any protests and so on. You don't see any large-scale protests by either the PTI rank and file or leaders, etc., etc. It seems that the army has been able to impose a degree of fear again through those tactics. And of course, it has the support of the government, which also dreads Imran Khan's popularity. So they are working together. At times, it seems to me that we are back almost to the situation that we have seen earlier also, in spite of all that violence, in spite of all that criticism of the army. So again, to sum up, I would say maybe this is part of that trend of slow chipping away. But to say that, it's already reached a situation where people can rise, in a big way against the army, maybe a little premature at this stage.
Sir, what about General Asim Munir? Now, while we see Imran Khan coming on Twitter or any other social media platform, going ballistic about everything. First, he blamed the US, the army, and then, he sort of said that I'm willing to talk, and, he was sort of, handing out some kind of compromise. We've seen General Asim Munir keeping silent all this while, but the army was taking some very strict actions, right? Also against those people who sort of encouraged violence that day. So, how do you see the tenure under General Asim Munir? Also, in the fact that how he will be able to probably have some kind of relationship with the Shahbaz Sharif government. Are they also, on good terms, or do you think even Sharif's days are counted?
Look, when he came to power, there were reports that there were sympathies within the army rank and file for
Right.
Imran Khan. Everyone knew that he had a grudge against Imran Khan. As I told you, he had been moved out of the position of DGISI after a very short while,
Right.
4 or 5 months only. So everyone knew he had a grudge against him, but there were also reports that there were sympathies within the army. I think every chief, when he comes, it takes him some time to, establish himself. But when sort of water crossed a certain level and this violence came on May 9th, I think he was very vocal. He made a very, very strong statement, not one, but 2 or 3 statements. He went to various garrisons to talk to them. He made statements through the ISPR. And then he convened a special meeting of corps commanders. And they endorsed his position that all the planners and instigators and perpetrators, those who committed this violence, will be brought to justice through various laws, including trial by military courts. So it seems to me that sympathy for Imran Khan, whatever it was, it hasn't amounted to much now that the army onslaught is going on against him. In fact, it seems to me that this violence gave an opportunity to Asim Munir to consolidate his position.
Correct.
As I said, he got this unified message from all corps commanders. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because for the army rank and file, this is an institution from which they draw tremendous advantages.
Correct.
Perks and privileges. So the last thing that they would like to see is a civilian leader, destroying this or weakening this institution, and that would hurt their own pockets.
Right.
So when it comes to that situation, they close their ranks, and this is what they seem to have done. You asked me about Asim Munir. Eventually, every chief of army staff is no one's friend, no civilian leader's friend.
Absolutely.
At the moment, his interests coincide with those of the Shahbaz Sharif government, including PPP, etc. So he's working with them. But the army doesn't trust them fully because, after all, they have also suffered at the hands of the army earlier. So there is that mistrust there. So one of the things that is happening, you might have seen, is that those leaders who have left PTI, they are trying to form a political grouping of their own. There are 2, 3 attempts being made. And possibly that is being encouraged by the army. Because they would like a political party minus Imran Khan to emerge from a destroyed sort of PTI. Because that will make sure that in the next election, whenever it takes place, no single party, either PPP doesn't have a chance, but PMLN has a chance, doesn't get a very large majority and become secure. It helps the army if it is a fragmented and divided mandate. Then they can play one political player against the other and, craft a majority of their own choice. So at the moment, working together. But whether they'll continue to do so, we don't know.
But so what you're saying, that means there will be a sort of PTI 2.0, and even if they are there only for the numbers' sake, What happens to Imran Khan? I mean, we saw him getting arrested, and then there were reports that he might be killed, and there were so many things going on. But then he was released, and now he's back again giving those statements. How do you see Imran Khan's the persona, the character, and he himself? How do you think that will be the army's plan of liquidating him? How will that happen?
So first, PTI 2.0, I just mentioned it as a straw in the wind. There are attempts being made, whether that succeeds or not. One big problem is there is no charismatic leader of the kind that Imran Khan has been to lead this new party or new political grouping. So let's see if someone emerges of that kind. Imran Khan, they'll have to deal with him one way or the other. If they have to do things minus him, if they have to push him out of the political equation, they cannot leave him like this. They have to get him disqualified from holding public office, or incarcerate him on some corruption charges, etc., etc., which could again lead to unrest in the public, because after all, he's a popular leader. We'll see how that plays out. But that's one thing, one strand which hasn't been tied up completely. And one problem has been the Chief Justice. Umarata Bandyal has been, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Pakistan has been partial to Imran Khan. A little, he's leaned towards him. And he has had an open confrontation with the government. He retires only in September of this year. So that takes him almost very close to the elections, October. So we'll have to see how they deal with Imran Khan. That's one of the reasons, there are speculations that elections may not take place even in October. That the army may delay them further, if they feel that they need some more time to tie up an intended outcome. That could happen at some stage. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
So how do you see the Shahbaz Sharif government ruling Pakistan? I mean, we saw Bilawal Bhutto even coming to India after so many years, a foreign minister coming to India for the SEO. But even there are other sort of, foreign policy initiatives going, their ties with Saudi Arabia is not really in the best of its form. Historically, it is low. They are now looking at also tying up with Russia. They're buying Russian oil. How do you see his government sort of panning out? And if there is an election, is there any chance that he might come back to power based on the work that he's done?
You're talking of
Shahbaz Sharif, yes.
No, Shahbaz Sharif, economically it's been a failure. But as I said earlier, who can succeed in Pakistan economically unless they radically change their internal and external orientation? Internal is address the structural problems of the economy, and externally change your posture towards India. You have a confrontational posture with India, which is much bigger, much better endowed. That's a huge burden on their economy. So, economically it's been a failure. On terror front, I think it's been a failure again. The terror wave is continuing. In fact, terror incidents have gone up.
Absolutely.
Now, politically, it's a logjam. So, if you go purely by popularity, as I said even earlier, you hold a free and fair election today, the chances are Imran Khan will win. But if the idea is to keep Imran Khan out, if the army helps them, then it will be a managed election, as it was in 2018. Except that in 2018, it was in favor of Imran Khan, and this time it will be in favor of this coalition, or maybe whoever the army reaches a deal with. So if we see a managed election, in a managed election, you can have outcomes which have nothing to do with or are not totally related to public support and public opinion.
So talk to us about, the TTP issue that you rightly said, the terror incidents are going up, and it seems the tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan is increasing, and that should be a cause of concern for India directly or indirectly.
You see, the point is that, first of all, TTP has arisen out of the forces which were created by Pakistan in league with the Western intelligence agencies to wage a jihad in Afghanistan. This I'm talking of the
The
80s.
post, yeah, okay, the
80s.
80s.
Then, of course, they joined them again in the war on terror half-heartedly. They joined them there, but they also harbored
Post 9/11.
the Taliban post 9/11. Then they helped the Taliban in securing their military victory in every
Right.
way, giving them sanctuary, giving them weapons, logistics, and so on, every way possible. They played very key role in bringing about the deal between the United States
And the Taliban.
and the Taliban. Having done that, I think they now realize that the dividends that they had expected have not come.
Okay.
The thing is that any government in Afghanistan, whether it is Taliban or whoever else is there, once they are established there, they have thousands of things to differ with Pakistan, on trade issues, they don't recognize the Durand line.
Yes, the
They
border
think
is
it
the
should be
main.
an open border. They say these are brothers living on both sides. So why do you have a border here at all? So that's a very serious thing for Pakistan. They have been attacking the fence which was built by the Pakistanis. But most importantly, they have harbored TTP. They haven't taken action against them on the Afghan soil. Because they have ideological affinities with them and they have operationally worked together. The TTP has helped them in securing their own victories. So Pakistanis have been calling upon the Taliban to do something about it, take action against them. But the Taliban, you saw Mutaki was there in Islamabad, the Taliban foreign minister last month when they had a trilateral meeting with China, Pakistan and Afghanistan. And during that meeting, he said very openly, he said, we believe we would advise you to continue talking to TTP. As you know, Pakistan government had been talking. Imran Khan had started those talks. But somewhere down the line, they gave it up because violence was just rising. And the Taliban are asking them to do the same again. And that doesn't sit well with the Pakistanis. So I think that is, in the long run, we'll have to see how it plays out. Because, if all these things lead to too much of, turmoil and radicalization, that is not really good. That's not something we are looking forward to or something we would like to see because, it does touch us one way or the other, whether in Kashmir or elsewhere. I don't think we have reached that situation. So long as, it continues to be at this level between the two countries, in a sense, fine. This is the results of Pakistan's own actions in the past.
So my last question to you will be, and that was, in a sense, this is the obvious question that comes to everyone's mind that we've not seen any let up from Pakistan's end as far as terrorism is concerned. Rather, now they are themselves also facing humongous amount of terror activities. But do you really suggest that, as India has said under the present government, the terror and talks cannot go together? But we can see the situation, how in Afghanistan changed, and also taking in, a view of the larger South Asian region changes with China having a very large influence here. Do you think it is time that India and Pakistan at least begin some kind of a dialogue? I mean, the back channel is on and off, but what do you say in terms of official
Yeah.
dialogue?
Well, I have always been a votary of keeping in touch, even with a difficult neighbor. We are in touch with China, of course, is a much, it's a bigger country, bigger economy, etc., etc. But what I say is that even if it's not to mend this relationship cannot be normalized completely until Pakistan becomes a completely normal state. Until that happens, you cannot normalize it completely. But even to manage it, you need to be in touch with Pakistan. So we have had this position, terror and talks cannot go together. Look, terror has gone down substantially. Not because the Pakistanis wanted to do it. I think the most significant single factor responsible for that has been the Financial Action Task Force
Yes.
action against Pakistan. That forced them to try terrorists and so on, bring them to book. And they are a little cautious at the moment. They are also in a bad shape. They do not wish to start any big trouble with India. So this is not the time probably also from their point of view to ramp up terror. So terror has gone down, but they haven't given up the instrumentality. So we say terror and talks cannot go together. On the other hand, the problem now is on the Pakistani side.
Right.
As you know, when we withdrew the special status of Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan, Imran Khan was Prime Minister. He took some steps which painted Pakistan into a corner.
Right.
He
Like the
suspended
downgrading of
trade.
diplomatic
Well,
ties,
that
trade.
of course, that takes away senior
Mm.
interlocutors from the two
Mm.
capitals. Suspended trade, which harms Pakistan much more than it harms India,
Mhm.
but demanded that India withdraw this step of, this rollback, this step of withdrawing the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. That's not going to happen. That's an impossible demand. So now they are locked in a political logjam where the government, Pakistan government, cannot climb down.
Mhm.
I would expect a climb down sometime after they are through with their elections. And then we are also going to have our elections next year. All that will play on the dialogue issue.
Mhm.
But in general, if you ask me, dialogue is essential. Uh, don't let up in whatever steps you take to hit them if they keep on troubling you. There are various ways,
Mhm.
in which you maintain your deterrence, you maintain your punitive approach, but at the same time, keep contacts. Let me say that contacts have been on. DG military, Director General of Military Operation, that
Right.
hotline has been operating. It's been used from time to time. We have heard of back channel
Hmm.
dialogue, which resulted in ceasefire. So I think some contacts have been on all along. Maybe
Mhm.
not upfront, but behind the scenes, which is fine enough. Whichever way it
Mhm.
happens, have to maintain those contacts, if nothing else, to manage that relationship. That is what
Mhm.
I would emphasize. But as I said, this is probably not the time to now, think of how do we go into a dialogue, etc.
Right.
That
Mhm.
further thaw in the relationship may be possible only after Pakistan, politically things settle down there. And after India is through with its elections in 2024, whichever is later.
Mhm. So, just my small question related to that is, even this time we saw Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari talking about taking back, the step that was taken in 2019. Do they still believe that, India can do such a thing? Because that's where External Affairs Minister said that wake up, smell the coffee.
Yeah.
That is history.
I don't think any serious policy maker in Pakistan would believe that.
Mhm.
Statehood may come someday to Jammu and Kashmir. Our government has committed to that.
Mhm.
It may come somewhere down the line, but not in response to Pakistan's demands. It is
Right.
when the government is prepared to go back to that situation. I don't think anyone serious policy maker believes that India will do this. But as I said, this is a demand which was made. Look, Imran Khan didn't have an effective answer to India's move at that stage.
Right.
He tried internationally, got very little
Hmm.
traction except for China.
Hmm.
Three closed door meetings of the UN Security Council, informal
Did not
discussion,
yield anything.
resulted in nothing because China couldn't get its way. So not having any effective answer, he took some measures which, as I said, painted Pakistan into a corner. And this is one of those things.
Mhm.
But having done that, now the political situation is completely blocked.
Mhm.
So Shahbaz Sharif and others wouldn't like to take any step which could be, described by their opponents as a sellout to India. This is not the time that they would be willing to do that. So I think it's something which has got perpetuated. Imran Khan took that step in 2021, 2022, he was out, then this political tussle started.
Right.
And that position which Pakistan took sort of got locked in firmly.
Mhm.
And a climb down may not be possible until Pakistan settles down politically.
Correct.
So that's why I said further thaw may be possible only after they are through with their settling down politically and we are through with our own election. Because
Right.
after all, that's also going to have some
Mhm.
impact on what
Mhm.
initiatives we can take.
Mhm. Mhm. Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On that note, we were discussing India-Pakistan relationship with Ambassador Sharat Sabharwal. He was India's High Commissioner to Pakistan. For ABP Live, this is Nayanima Basu.